clunkier than it would be if we were working in person. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. Awesome. So if you're happy, we'll crack on. Has everyone managed to see the questions that we sent out? There was, I apologise, there was a little bit of an issue with the questions having a small mistake in them, but hopefully you either worked that out or you saw the later version on WhatsApp, which went out about an hour or so ago, and that's all cleared up. Everyone happy?
Yes.
Cool. So, without further ado, let's all start working through those. So, question one. It's Saturday, the 23rd of March, and we're at Victoria. Does somebody want to kick me off with question A? Is it springs or neeps?
Neeps.
Who is that?
Peter.
Peter, and how did you? And so, just to clear us up, Peter, how did you work that out?
Because it was the 23rd is in blue, which tells us it's neeps.
Okay. Anyone got any other way that
we could have done it by the range? Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Peter?
Or we could have done it by the range on that day, which is 2.1 to 4.3. So that's 2.1, which on the next page we see is neeps. Cool.
Which then really takes us quite nicely onto the next question. What is the tidal range? And so the tidal range, so if we have a look at that on the 23rd of March, the tidal range in the morning, it's 2.2, and in the afternoon, it's 2.2 as well. So if we go through to the next page and we look at the ranges, the neeps range is 2.4. So if the range of the day is smaller than the mean neeps range, what does that mean? What would that matter to us? Anyone want to pop up with an intervention or an answer to that? Stuart? You have to unmute yourself, mate.
Yeah, I've unmuted.
Spring tides.
Sorry, spring tides?
Yeah. Or spring range.
No, it's a neap range, so the range is 2.2.
Yeah, but surely would neeps not be similar to the spring tide range? Would it not be accentuated?
Well, we've established that it's neeps on the 23rd of March, but the range is 2.2. So what I'm trying to get at here is by the curve there, it's showing the mean ranges, and it's showing the springs mean range is 4.9 meters, and the neeps mean range is 2.4 meters. So that, because it uses the word mean range, it means that some of the neeps tides the range would be lower than 2.4, and some of the neeps tides, the range would be higher. So not all neeps are equal, and not all springs are equal. Does that make sense? So when
Yep.
you can have a neeps with a very small range, and you can have a springs with a very high range. When the neeps have got a small range, it doesn't make much odds to us, really. It just means that everything's going to be fairly slow and benign in most cases. But when we've got a big spring range, so some people refer to them as a super spring. There was one a couple of weeks ago when Fernando was out doing his Yachtmaster prep with me, and we were at about 120, 125% spring. So, and the tidal streams were flowing up and down the Solent at a massive rate. So what I'm trying to get at here is you can spot from the almanac when it's when it's neeps or springs, but also you need to look at the range, and you've got to start to have a think about what does that mean for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the times and heights of high water at Victoria? Hopefully this is a really straightforward one. Anyone want to jump in with an offer for those times?
High water, 4:36, 23 foot, and 17:36.
Yeah, cool. But in the heights are both 4.3 meters. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that was a really straightforward set of warm-up questions. So we're going to jump forward a week, and it's now Saturday the 30th of March, and we're at Victoria. Somebody who hasn't answered so far, is it springs or neeps?
Can I just jump in and ask how everyone's getting this information? Because I've got nothing on the screen to judge it from.
It's at there's a link at the bottom of the email. That
Pardon?
gets you to the email that was sent.
Sorry, that was me, Janet, asking where all the information is. I saw it when you were pointing to it, but I've got nothing to refer to now.
Okay. Did you not get the PDF earlier?
No. Okay. Are people working from PDFs?
I'll put it onto the chat now, so you can hopefully upload it. Bear with me, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in and answer the next question. It's a spring.
Go on, man. Well done,
Ah, yay.
So what sort of, I think what's the next question is, what is the tidal range? Somebody who hasn't jumped in yet?
6 and 5.8.
6 meters, 5.8.
Cool. And is this range bigger or smaller than the mean range?
It's bigger.
What does that tell us based on what we were talking about earlier?
It's going to be a greater tidal flow.
Yeah, it's going to be really flowing up and down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you put anything on the screen, Mike? Because I still can't see anything.
Yeah, it's just coming up now. So sorry, I was trying to do the two things at once, and clearly being human, I can't do that. Is the range bigger or smaller than the mean range? We've got that. It's bigger than the mean range. So what would we expect the tidal flows in and out of ports and around headlands to be during the morning and the afternoon?
Very fast.
Yeah, really fast. So if we think about, so what time's high water on the 30th?
11:17 and 23:42.
11:20. Yeah. So so high water is at 11:20. So in the morning, we're on this part of the curve here. So that you can see that the rate, that the height of tide is changing in Port Victoria is really high. And in the afternoon, we're on this part of the curve here. So you can see that the rate at which the tidal stream is changing in Victoria is very high as well. So it's a bit like if you're filling your bath up and your bath's filling very fast, there's a lot of water that's got to be coming from somewhere. So that the water's flowing through your pipes will be coming through at a fast rate. So at springs, the rate at which water's flowing is much greater than it is at neeps. And if we've got a super springs, then it's going to be even greater. So when we look at our tidal stream atlases, can you remember there's normally an arrow which shows the direction of the flow of the tidal stream? Yeah?
Yeah.
All makes sense. And then there's the two numbers. So there's the mean neeps range, and there's the mean spring range. So if the mean NEAPS range was 1.2 and the mean spring range was 3.0, would we expect the tidal stream to be bigger or smaller than 3.0 on the 30th?
More than 3.
More than 3, yeah. So on the when we look at the heights of tide, it's not just the height of tide we're interested in. We're interested in the range, and that's going to tell us something about what the flows are and what it's going to be out to be like sailing on those days. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. And why would it be bigger and more why would I be particularly asking about in and out of ports and around headlands, guys? Somebody who hasn't contributed yet can't come up with an idea on that. Matt Claver, you're keeping quiet, mate. Still keeping quiet.
So yeah, sorry, I'm in the middle of cooking. I'm just listening. Come back to me.
Good thing it's I haven't answered anything yet. So just more risk of collision and the need to be more precise.
Yeah, I suppose there is more risk of collision, particularly going in and out of ports. But I'm thinking, why would I be asking a question about what are the tidal flows around, like in and out of a port entrance or around a headland? Anyone got any other ideas?
Funnel effect.
Sorry?
The funnel effect of narrowing things so the flow's faster.
Yeah, so exactly. So when you constrain the flow of the tide, and it flows, basically the tide ebbs and flows up and down the channel. If you constrain it, so around a headland like Portland Bill or around St Catherine's Point, or in and out of a harbour, then that it's like putting your finger over the end of the hose. So the flow rate increases massively, and the consequence of those tidal streams is much more impactful. So if you think about those places I've just mentioned, Portland Bill, we have Portland tidal rates. It's not just the headland. There's a shoaling of the seabed there. Everything becomes faster and much more aggressive. The same, St Catherine's Point in the Needles Channel. The entrance in and out of Portsmouth Harbour is quite turbulent now that they've done the dredging. So the water flows much more quickly in past Southsea and then becomes constrained to get in and out past the funfair and in past into Gunwharf, and it's really, really quite confused and turbulent. So where we've got super springs or big springs and we've got a constraint or a headland, is somewhere where we might want to be particularly cautious. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So we're going to chug on to one day more. It's now Sunday the 31st of March. We're still in Victoria. What's changed overnight?
The clocks have changed. So it's universal time +1.
Cool. How would that work for us?
So because it's unshaded, you now add 1 hour to the time that's in the book. So high tide is at 13:01, low tide is at 06:44, and the other low tide is at 19:14.
Almost
local time.
Almost perfect there, Anna. So the times you gave were correct. Just the only point I'd correct you on is actually when we're in summertime, it's UT -1, and if it was me, I would have done it the other way around. But this is how they've done it, and how the number works is the number that you have to take off the local time to get back to UT. So UT -1 means that the time zone is, if it's 13:30, you take 1 hour off that to get you to the universal time. Does that make sense to everyone? It can be it can be really confusing if you don't think about it.
Mhm.
Happy day.
Sorry, can you
Universal
just go?
time GMT.
Sorry?
Universal time is GMT.
Yeah, to all intents and purposes.
Right. So
Right.
the BST is 1 hour ahead.
BST is 1 hour ahead, which is UT minus 1.
Okay. That complicates it for me. But
It does. It's really confusing. But how the time zone, the nomenclature works is it's UT minus 1 means to get to UT, you have to take 1 hour off the local time. So UT minus 3, you'd have to take 3 hours off the local time to get to universal time.
Yes, but the times in the book here are universal time.
They're all universal times. Universal time.
Right.
Happy?
So you said that the lady who answered the question gave you the correct times
Yes.
in local time.
Yes.
Can you just, I couldn't see those because I thought we were on the 1st of April.
Yeah.
So
Same here.
does that mean, so it seems to me that on the 1st of April, if we're talking about high waters, the first one is at 1:24 in the morning, local time.
Yes, correct.
And 13:47 in the afternoon.
Correct.
Local time. Right.
Cool. And we're actually working on the question I've worked out is for the 30th. So what is the height of tide at 09:17 local time?
Was that not for the 1st of April?
No.
Yeah, we're getting confused. The
on the
PDF
questionnaire.
actually says 1st of April.
Yeah.
There was a correction that came out. We can do it for both of them.
I didn't see that.
On the 31st, I think it's about
Yeah.
3.6.
So high water. What time's high water on the 31st? It is
13:01.
13:01. And the height of tide for low water on the 31st?
0.2.
0.2. And high water 6 something, yeah?
6.1.
6.01. And then we draw a line between the two. And then what time do we say? 1917? We got 12, 11, 10, 09. 09:17 is going to be about here. So we come up and we're on the red line because it springs, and we come across, and the height of tide is about 2.1.
I was off by an hour, I believe.
Do you agree, everyone?
Yeah.
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 Does anyone want me to work through the same problem on the first as well?
That's right.
That's
No,
fine.
that's all right. That's all makes sense. So that was everyone can. That's all a very straightforward calculation. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So staying on the 31st.
Can I just ask a question on just looking at the sine curve or the bell curve of these tides, the difference between the springs and the neaps. The shape of the curve is so small that it's sort of irrelevant to the calculation, isn't it?
It almost is on this example. It's almost it's negligible. In some places, it's a lot more pronounced difference between springs and neaps. And the thing to then think about is if there's a big pronounced difference between springs and neaps, how accurate is it, or how good an assumption is to just think that you can interpolate between the two. So it's probably not going to be that accurate. And don't worry about that, but just be aware that this is only a prediction. It's not accurate. So you need to have some safety built into your calculations. 3 weeks ago, when we were down in on those super springs, the calculated height of high water in Portsmouth was 4.8. We went out past the tide pole at high water, give or take 5 minutes, and the height of tide was 5.2, and that was because the wind had been blowing from the southwest pretty much consistently for 2 or 3 weeks, and literally had just been piling the water up at that end of the sort of the eastern end of the channel, and it made a 36 difference at Portsmouth, despite the fact there being really quite horrible low pressure over the and accentuated with some low pressure.
Mike, Janet here. Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Someone said something about the bell curve being negligible, which I can see. But if you look at the springs and neaps range, that looks more than just a tiny amount to me. That looks like 2.5 difference.
Yeah, but how we account for that is we draw the line based on the height of low water and the height of high water, and then the steepness of that line. For some reason, it's not drawing a line for me, but you can see the steepness. We mark off low water, then we mark off high water, and then we draw a line between the two.
Okay.
And the steepness of that line is that's what we use to work out what the height of tide is. So we have to come up to the curve and go across. And if the range was smaller, so a neat,
yes,
that might be. We're only,
okay.
You know, make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I've only got 2.5 minutes to the conference left, unfortunately, because before they boot us out. So you're planning to anchor just before lunch in a bay. The charted depth is 3.5 metres. How much change should we lay out? Do we need to do a calculation on this particular day to work out the height of tide?
I did it for the 1st of April. The
1st of April. The situation's pretty much the same, isn't it? So
yeah.
High water's either at 13:47 or 13:01. So if we're anchoring just before lunch, we're going to be around for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. So what's the maximum height of tide likely to be whilst we're at anchor?
6.1.
5.4.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus 3.5, so it's going to be 9.5.
Well, the height of tide is always going to be 6.1. The amount of water is going to be plus 3.5, so 9.6 metres. Should we call it 10 metres for government work?
Yep.
How much chain are we going to have to lay out?
40 metres.
40 metres. How many charter boats have you found with 40 metres of chain? So when the tidal range is high, we have to be really careful where we're anchoring, because we need to go in quite shallow so we've got enough anchor. But then the low heights are going to be low. So I'm going to crack on because I've now got less than a minute to go before the Zoom boots me out. So the marina has a drying height of 2 metres above chart datum. What's going to be the problem this evening? Go on, Fernando.
Well, sorry, I was in a contract. Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to be wrong.
I'm going to jump in before because it's just about to kick me out. So if
it will be dry. It will be dry.
Yeah, it will dry, and so the low water's almost zero. So we're going to have to come back in really quite early. So it's probably, I haven't worked out the heights exactly, but we're probably going to have lunch and then turn around pretty quickly. So if you're in somewhere where during springs, these things can make massive problems for you in your planning. Was that